I just had a beautiful conversation with Telisha Matthews, who is a lawyer, and she has her own business, a law firm that she recently started. Well, it's coming up to a year soon. And she started this amazing series, the Unspoken series, where she is interviewing different women and asking them about their journey, especially in the workplace or in business, and what's been the experience with sisterhood and what it means to them. So I really, really wanted to share this with you guys as well. So she has granted us permission to share the clips from that conversation. And I'm excited to learn about what sisterhood means to you as well. Of course, I'll share all the information for her event because there's one that's coming up on the 1st of August, and also just platforms for you to reach out to her because I think what she's doing is beautiful, especially for women within law and other industries as well. So, yeah, here is the episode. Welcome all to our financial wellness podcast, From Roots to Fruits, where we nurture our roots to grow more delicious fruits. I'm your host, Arlyne. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of the Unspoken series, where I have unfiltered conversations with successful professional women on the state of sisterhood in the workplace. Now, for today's episode, I'm super excited for my guest. We have Arlyne from Roots to Froots, and I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this series. I can't wait to kind of get into the details of everything. It's an appropriate subject. So, as you said, Arlyne Chinyanganya, founder of Roots to Fruits, which is a financial wellness platform. And we support professionals and business owners to manage their finances. And that's through coaching, through one-to-one sessions, through networking events. We just had an event last week, and also accounting services and consultations too. So yeah, we do a host of things, and on top of that, I'm a SEMA because I'm a qualified accountant through SEMA, member in practice, and yeah, I'm a women in leadership kind of ambassador through SEMA as well. So appropriate subject for us today.
Absolutely. Who better to have this conversation with? And I thought it would be even more appropriate based on your extensive background and your many accomplishments to have a really focus on entrepreneurship and how that fits in with sisterhood. But to begin with, I always start with these few questions. So, Arlyne, what does sisterhood in the workplace, what does true sisterhood in the workplace mean to you?
So I see sisterhood in the workplace to be the same as sisterhood in general outside. And we all need community. This is something as human beings, let alone as women. We are known for having good connections and we grow together. You know, if you have this sisterhood, then you know people to go to, especially when there's issues. And then we have to give back as well. So in the workplace, I see it as when you join, there are people that are welcoming you in, especially if you're new to employment altogether, then they're welcoming you in, hopefully training you, showing you like how things work. And then once you're settled in and you've learned what you've learned, then you give back as well to the new joiners. And I see that in the similar way as in outside of work. So it should be the same as in the workplace.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. There shouldn't be a distinction. Unfortunately, sometimes there is, but there absolutely shouldn't be. So I guess the next question is, how, if at all, has your experience of sisterhood in the workplace lived up to or fallen short of your ideal of true sisterhood?
Yeah, so I mean, going back to joining the workplace, so I studied business and finance at university in Birmingham, and after that I felt like, what am I actually going to do, because I actually didn't like accounting at A level. I didn't like it, and I didn't think I was going to end up as an accountant. But after uni, that's where I started to seek out support, like other people, because I knew I wanted to be in finance, but I didn't know what to do. And I had a couple of aunts aunts that said you need to look for a grad scheme. And of course, I knew I needed to look for a grad scheme. And they started to show me what sisterhood was before I've even joined the workplace, because they talked me through XYZ. They helped me prepare like a bank of answers. If you're asked, what do you want to do in the next 5 years, or where do you want to be in the next 5 years? You don't say, I want to be married, I want this Mercedes car. No, you're meant to align it with the strategy and align it with that company
Yeah.
as well. So it was like simple things like that that I didn't know coming out of university. But I had those aunts, older people that were in finance, and one of them was like, you should probably look for a grad scheme within accounting, because she thought that it aligned, and that's where I ended up. And I got a job finally because she supported me with that. So already I felt like, okay, this is what it would be in the workplace. Finally joined, and I had no, my manager in the first role was a man. But I had mentors because it was a grad scheme. So fantastic. You get matched up to a mentor. So if you have issues with your manager, if you have issues with your workload or the company or whatever it is, there was someone to go talk to, and it was a woman. So already I'm being shown a little bit of sisterhood there, because I've been paired up with someone that I could relate to, because, you know, she's also a woman. And now we're studying. I was studying for SEMA as well as doing work, and you've got month end, you've got year end. Accounting is really stressful at peak times, but you also have to pass your exams. And within that, I found a network of people within SEMA too that I could relate to. They worked at different companies, but then we could talk about things. So fortunately, I seeked out people, or I was paired up with the right people that then helped me along the way. But that's not to say that there weren't, you know, bad characters in those early beginnings too, because in a grad scheme, we all know that one or two of you are actually going to get a permanent job. We weren't guaranteed jobs there, because they need to keep on getting new grads in. So already there's that competitive nature. And I noticed that within the cohorts, it's not as friendly. I found, you know, sisterhood within someone who was my mentor, and they had to give me a bit of warmth. But within kind of now we're being pitted against each other because you're competing for a job. All of a sudden, you're a bit standoffish with particular people, and then they are as well. And someone gets the role, or someone gets a promotion, or someone gets a particular project. I'm now kind of comparing myself to them and wondering how come they got it, but I've been putting in the same hours. So I think that then introduced the energy of, we're competing, we're not friends. Therefore, the sisterhood element starts to disappear a little bit. So yeah, in within that, there were people that I didn't become friends, but there are people that I wasn't competing with that I'm still friends with today. And that's the earlier experience that I thought I would bring to the conversation, especially like introducing sisterhood when you get into the workplace.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it's so beautiful that you had that sisterhood that prepared you for the workplace beforehand, and then going into it, because of the way in which you entered through a grad scheme, you then had the support through a mentor. It's interesting that you made a distinction between the level of sisterhood that you experience with a mentor versus with your peers. And I know you ascribe that to the fact that you are competing. So I think it's fair to say that the competitive nature of the profession or the workplace heavily influences dynamics between women. So
Yeah.
accepting that, how much responsibility do you then think we can ascribe to the individual if they engage in competitive behaviors? If they're simply a product of their environment,
Mm.
how can we truly hold them accountable for engaging in such behaviors? Or do you think it's not a question of either or?
No, it's a great question actually, because it's all about having integrity, and it's all about having a good character, because it's not just in the workplace, you know, in sports as well. You're going to find people that are competing for the same championship, but that shouldn't stop you from being friends, or that shouldn't stop you from acting with integrity, meaning you respect the person, you act with respect, and you're not trying to put them down. You're not giving out the actions that will actually hinder them from succeeding. You don't have to do that, but you can make sure that because you're competing for something, you can make sure that you're putting yourself in the best foot. So people can still work hard in their own lanes, but then you're not making someone else look bad. So then you get the job. You don't have to do that. So that's why I'm saying, like, we can all act with integrity, even if we're competing for something. So yes, the environment might breed people that are kind of going away from sisterhood, but we don't have to, because if you're acting with integrity, there's no shortage of jobs. You know, if I don't get this permanent role, I've been trained up to be able to go and get another one somewhere else. And if you have sisterhood, then maybe you can get references from people and get a role somewhere else. However, if you're now acting without integrity and you're putting other people down, that might stop you from getting another position somewhere else, because they're not going to recommend you. And later on, you might see each other in other situations, and you've created bad energy. So although the environment is competitive, it doesn't mean that we have to act in a bad way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what advice would you give to early years professionals or university students that are starting the process of entering the corporate space?
Amazing question. I would say that if you're just joining, then you are a sponge, and go in it with a really open mind, and go in it with kind of getting to know everyone and create relationships, because I have gotten to where I'm at now, which is 13 years in working for corporate. So I worked for the London Ambulance Service. After that, I worked for Merlin Entertainment and got 2 promotions within Merlin Entertainment. And then after that, I joined Gift Gaff and Virgin Media O2. So that's been my career over the past kind of decade and a bit. And I'll say what got me promotions, pay rises, as well as just good references are the good relationships that I formed with various people. The mentors that I got, or relating to certain women in the workplace as well, they could kind of advise, like, when you are going and you're doing an audit, you should probably think about XYZ, of which I probably wouldn't have got that inside information if we didn't have a good relationship. If we're not talking, you know, over lunch or over drinks or something like that. So I'd say if you are new to the workplace, then be a sponge, be open-minded, make friends, because you never know where that good relationship is going to take you. And there's some people that I connected with, like 3 workplaces ago, that have sent me opportunities now as a business owner, because they've seen what I'm doing on LinkedIn, and they were like, oh, I know a company, they would like a financial wellness coach. What do you think? And then they send me the details. And that's a relationship that I would have created, 8 years ago, but still they're looking out for me now. So you never know.
Absolutely. Relationship is the word that I picked up on. And that goes hand in hand with the idea of sisterhood, because at the core of it, it shouldn't just be a word. It's building authentic, deep-rooted connections with people that when we look at it, we have so much shared experiences. So even outside of that, I think it's so amazing that you mentioned the importance of relationships, not just for career progression, but also for your peace of mind, for your mental health, for your physical health, because ultimately what happens in the workplace affects you, affects your body, it affects your outlook on life. And that is something that I think a lot of people, especially in today's society, they have a hard time understanding or transitioning from that transactional mindset to authentic relationship building. So I think it's beautiful that you said being a sponge going into it. And I suppose on the side of someone that is entering the workplace, that is something you can definitely do, not just to build relationships, but ultimately to facilitate the development of healthy sisterhood relationships in the workplace. And on the other side, as someone that may be more senior in the workplace, what advice would you give to develop those relationships to ensure that sisterhood in the workplace isn't just for Women's Month.
Mm-hmm.
Organic, and it actually means something to the individual.
Yes. So, with that question, what I think instantly is at the moment, we know that there's a pay gap, a gender pay gap. And we know that is because it's not on all levels. When we start, we're all on the same kind of pay. And as we get older, you're gaining that experience, but now you're starting families or having other priorities. Therefore, you're out of the workplace a little bit. If you're now more experienced but you need to maybe go part-time or whatever situation that you're in, wouldn't you rather have good relationships with the people that are probably there 24/7, so then not 24/7 but like 5 days a
Hopefully
week?
not. To call HR, Susanna.
But yeah, no, like, wouldn't you want good relationships with people that are there all the time, and also so that your career keeps on going up? So I think the sisterhood conversation makes it so as women, what can we do to help ourselves to continue to progress within the workplace, rather than see that one C-suite kind of woman that has made it as course she made it, what did she do to get there, and then bringing her down, but more of how can we help each other to all get to that level. So that's within us, and then there's a wider conversation of what should workplaces do anyway, but I think within our like as women, this is how we could probably help each other. And if we have good relationships, then you're most likely going to get that support.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's relationship, then it's also heavy on personal responsibility. As you rightly said, yes, there is a responsibility on the C-suite, like woman professional at that position, but it's not solely on her. So whilst we should have honest conversations about the unhealthy acts and dynamics between women that some women engage in, it's equally important to highlight the responsibility that we have as individuals going into these spaces to position ourselves in a way where we can not only receive from other women in the workplace, but be attractive in a sense in terms of our energy for those that want to pour into us, because they go hand in hand. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, because when you do experience true sisterhood as something that you have like spoken so beautifully about before and at the start of your career, it is so transformative. And because it's so transformative and we know how important it is, that's all the more reason why we need to have honest conversations and call out instances where we don't live up to that, because in the absence of that, so many people miss out on such a beautiful thing. And then Women's Month comes up and then we celebrate, So absolutely, I think that's so beautiful. What were a few pieces of advice you were given before you entered the workplace? Because I know you mentioned that you were blessed to have a group of people around you that really poured into you. So you're well positioned to receive and contribute to sisterhood in the workplace.
Yes. So I'll start off with a piece of advice that I didn't take, which was to kind of just think about your work. You're there to work, be the most hardworking person. You're not there to make friends. I didn't take that. Instead, it's more if someone's got a leaving due, a birthday, something, if there's drinks on Thursdays, then you don't have to go all the time, because also it's your money, but attend Christmas, if your Christmas do, go there. Be mindful because these are your colleagues as well, but make sure that you're there. And then a piece of advice that I got, or maybe I clocked on, I'm not sure, but later on, was be involved within like the engagement group, or the people that are planning something. Just kind of be involved with that, so then that's how you can strengthen other friendships within the workplace, and then you might gain favor from different departments. That because as finance, we want people to do certain things, to follow certain processes, and we're always looked at as the police. Why did you spend that? You're out of budget. But if you're involving yourself with certain groups outside of that, then they're most likely going to do what you advise them. So what I then did was, okay, get involved in other things. And it's fun as well, at least for
Yeah.
myself. I know it's
Yeah.
not everyone's cup of tea, but I enjoyed myself
Mm.
planning the Christmas parties. So I would say if you're also new to employment, find a little activity that you can get yourself involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. And so from that, when I'm thinking about dynamics, again, responsibility, what's the word, accountability,
Yeah.
also being active, what you just mentioned, that's what I'm getting, being active about positioning yourself in a way where you can receive, uh, you're in a good position to receive what other people want to pour into you, because the same way there's people that be may unfortunately allow the competitiveness of their profession to allow them to act in unfortunate ways, such as with gatekeeping or competitiveness, as you mentioned, amongst your peers. There's also women that look for the opportunity to pour into others, as you've had the privilege to experience in your career, and as I've had to experience later on in my career. So it is there. The Unspoken is about giving a voice to the range of sisterhood, all versions of it, which is equally important for us all. And so when I think about ambition in these spaces, you have to be ambitious to be as successful as you've been, navigating accounting, getting all the accolades, working with all these big brands. 13 years in corporate, like that's a lot of time. Many people don't make it that far. So ambition, you have to be ambitious. I would say perhaps that ambition lends itself to competitiveness, not just generally in the workplace, but I would say for the purposes of this series, amongst women, especially in male dominated spaces. So how do we differentiate between healthy ambition or and unhealthy competitiveness, or is it something that we can't distinguish between and we simply have to learn to navigate?
Another great question. I mean, and you touched on a good point that because most spaces
Mm,
are male spaces,
mm,
and then we entered the workplace, and let alone being like a Black woman. So I'm from Zimbabwe, so African lady joining
mm,
the workplace, so there's loads already stacked up against us. But as women in general, we're still kind of entering spaces. We could have
mm.
been even started the spaces, but then men dominated it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then you already feel like you're competing against men.
Mm,
And then now when a woman comes in, you already have the energy of this is a competition. Now
mm,
she's my competition, because at some stage we would have had like a representative, so just one woman in the
mm,
room, and then everyone's like fighting to be that woman in the room.
mm,
And similar to like the Black person, you're the Black person that has made it, and like you're like fighting for that. But
mm,
I feel like we've moved along, especially in different spaces. So within
mm,
accounting, a lot of women have entered the accounting fields now
mm,
and are in senior positions as well. So yes, there might be a culture of that, or it's really hard to change certain when the energy was already competitive. It's
mm,
hard to change that, even though the circumstances are different now.
mm,
But these conversations are fantastic, as you said.
mm.
And yes, when we have the Women's Month, is
Mm.
also a positive thing, because
Yeah.
in that month, we're
Mm,
having productive conversations about any issues that might be
mm,
there. You're finally hearing from people that probably have never seen in the workplace, and
mm,
they're talking about how they got to a position. So attend, be a part of it,
mm,
and then also within the year, not just that month,
mhm,
having productive conversations, because there's women's groups as well in most
mhm,
big corporations
mhm,
where they want to support women. So that's a fantastic thing. Join, be a part of the conversation, and highlight when the subject is we want women to thrive, but then you're not seeing the actions. So be that
mhm,
voice that says, but we're not seeing XYZ. How come? Because most companies also put out the equal pay gaps, sorry, the
mhm,
gender pay gaps. So then you just ask the questions, why hasn't this been rectified? We've been seeing
mhm,
the same report for the past 5 years. What's going on there?
mhm,
And also, fine, we've got a women's group. What are the subjects that we're actually discussing on a monthly basis? So you start to practically challenge in that sense. So then the two marry each other. But on the same subject of it's a competitive place, I will repeat my answer from before in terms of, but we can act with integrity and morals. Do not do something that you wouldn't do outside of the workplace. Or, if you feel like this is something that's, I wouldn't like someone else doing it to me, then you should probably not do it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And transitioning from working in corporate, you founded Roots to Fruits. You actually celebrated 5 years recently. I was there, whoop, 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 whoop. Pick up yourself. So what does sisterhood look like as a founder in entrepreneurship?
Amazing question as well. So when I started it, it was in 2020. And at that point, it actually came about at a women's group. We just decided to do something in someone's living room, and I was invited to talk about finances. So before I even knew about the name, and a woman, my friend, encouraged me to come along. So then there was already sisterhood, and I saw kind of, okay, this person might help me with this. But as an entrepreneur, ultimately, unless if you have a co-founder, it's just you. And unless if you have employees from day one, which most people don't, it's just you. So it can get lonely. So fine, the inspiration started, but then now we've started to run the business. We're trying to figure out, is it going to grow? Who are my clients? What's the business model? And all sorts. And I've seen some people help. So in terms of like finding other clients for me, and then recommendations, introductions, that sort of thing, or I can help you with this, but this is the service that I offer and I'll give you a discount because, we've met and all of that. So there's been instances where it felt like this is sisterhood, especially within kind of like the female entrepreneurship space, because there's loads of groups like Female Founders Rise. You can join that. And I went on an accelerator program that was specifically for women through the Vantage company. And it was for females. And that was really eye-opening. And I made some friends that are also entrepreneurs. So I did see it there, but there's always a flip side.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And
so like,
yeah,
sorry, I'll just wrap up on that answer, because I have had some women that I've reached out to seeing like, you're where I want to be, or you're doing something similar, or we can work together, and then you get ghosted, or someone's kind of like, I'm too busy, which they could be, which is fair enough. So I have seen where maybe the sisterhood could have been a bit, or maybe we expect, more help from certain people, but then you don't get it. And that has felt disappointing when that has come up. And also it is a business, so it could be competitive as well if you want a certain contract. So yeah, there's definitely both within the space.
Absolutely. And definitely, I relate to that when it comes to law, particularly later in my career. Within the last few years, I've actually developed relationships with other women that I consider mentors that have helped me, get to the point where I can establish my own legal consulting firm and having the confidence to go after clients and, put myself out there. So I absolutely am the beneficiary of sisterhood in that regard. At the same time, as you mentioned, there is a flip side. And with that flip side, I know you touched on the fact that there may be the element of competitiveness because you may just be competitors within the same space. Do you think there are any other underlying causes of that may influence certain women to not be as forthcoming or as willing to engage or assist you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's the age old, I had to struggle, I had to figure that out, whether they consciously know that or it's like subconscious and they don't even know that they're acting a certain way and it's being perceived a certain way. But I feel like it's because they've had to go through the trenches, so they're not opening up a nice pathway for someone to just walk in. They would prefer, or maybe they learned a lot from that journey and think probably you should go through the same journey. Yes. So a host of things, but yeah, I think it's mostly from that, like
Mhm.
people feeling like, well, it was hard for me, and
You have to.
it's gonna be hard for you.
Woo, child. Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with those sentiments. In which case, I don't know if that's something that can be changed. I think it's just a matter of, as the individual, you need to hold yourself accountable. But as someone on the receiving end of it, it's about having that understanding, not necessarily having grace for that mindset, because objectively, it's harmful. That said, as an individual that may be on the receiving end of it, I do think it's useful. It's definitely helpful and healthy for you, for your mental state as an entrepreneur, to not internalize it. And that's something that I've learned on my journey. It's not personal.
Yeah.
It's not about you, Arlyne. I don't
Mhm.
want you, Arlyne, to get the contract. It's like, I don't want any individual in Arlene's position to get the contract, because I had to suffer and I had to struggle through. And as you mentioned, it may not even be conscious. I've
Yeah.
heard people say that, but it's
Mhm.
not, that's not always the case where they say that. Sometimes they may just think it, or I wasn't at this stage when I was at your age, or it took me a while to get here, so why are you know what I mean? So there's natural human emotions, again, of insecurity, and then I would argue emotional immaturity, but there's enough space for all of us, and like, we're a testament to that. I'm in law, like you're in finance, like you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, but there's enough space for all of us. And there's the beauty in collaboration, working together. We get, as you mentioned before, we get further by working together. So it's in our best interest to, even if we have those feelings, to override them
Mhm.
in a way that allows us to collaborate and move forward. So I guess the
Mhm.
next question is, how has your understanding, and I believe your commitment to fostering true sisterhood, influenced how you lead and show up as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as an accountant, as a human being?
So I've literally taken to, and that was part of opening Roots to Fruits. It was to give back, and I use the exact same energy as, because I'm an older sister. I use the exact same energy as that. So I do not want my younger sister to struggle. If I know the answer, then I'm going to help her out.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's the same within business too, where it's
Mm.
like, I do not want other people to have to, because actually, if they figure it out quicker, then hopefully they will support me too, and then we rise together a lot
Absolutely.
quicker, because we've got different skill sets.
Mm.
So I hope I answered the question, but that's the attitude that I'm taking within Risk to Fritz. And we have Empower Her. We had the third Empower Her, which is our kind of Women's Month event. And we've had an amazing kind of host of speakers that have come to give some support and advice to the members. And we are going to have another one next year in March too. And that's a way of just continuing to specifically support women. It's just for women and to help us out. So that's a way to make sure that that is at the center. But then Roots to Fruits supports both genders, all genders. But in that month, it's just about empowering women.
I love that. And again, you're not just paying lip service. Your ideals are reflected in what you do, how you operate as a company. And that goes back to, as you were saying before, companies living up to their values, what they say, that being reflected in the workplace. Are there any other practical steps that the individual can make as an entrepreneur to foster supportive, genuine relationship building amongst women? I mean, when people probably have these conversations, it may seem somewhat foreign, but it's like, no, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to foster these spaces. Simply having open discussions in your university, or whatever that looks like. But also specifically within entrepreneurship, is there what are the practical steps that the individual can take to
Yes.
foster these?
So I feel like, entrepreneurs as well, there's so much, especially at the start of your journey. We were just talking about it, weren't we, that you are head of marketing, head of finance, head of everything, meaning that you probably do not have loads of time. But if you created a network or connected with other women that are specialists in the same kind of that specialist in the field that you might require, then you can ask them for some support, and then also give support.
Mm.
So you're a lawyer, you've got your law firm, amazing. So then if I, with my finance business, might require some support, and I have reached out to you, and thank you so much for the support that you did give at that point. And it's give and take. So if there's something that you can offer, I do free mentoring for Digital Boost. I also give free or really low rates to charities, especially women charities. And if a woman or someone that I know that they're disadvantaged came up to me and said, I need this support, but I do not have the funds, then we can come up with an agreement. So everyone has something that they could give, whether you are an entrepreneur or you're just someone who has certain skills that an entrepreneur might really need, then lend yourself to them. For example, like for Empower Her, I had, and in the past event as well, I had loads of people that just reached out, and you reached out as well to say, how can I support you? And I said, oh my God, thank you so much. Not a lot of people just say that I would like to help you out. So offer up your services, because that's how you can support a woman, and also be open to ask for help, and then they can help you too. It goes both ways. So that's what I would say. That's a quick tip that you can start off there and join the groups. I know it might feel like it's a lot. Now you're on WhatsApp and you're always getting pinged, but join, because when you have that question, someone will come up with an answer. Or when you want people to show up for you, like, everybody please go like my Instagram post, and then all of a sudden you've got 50 people going to like your Instagram post. It's as simple and easy as that, but you have to nurture that, and you have to start those relationships. So those are my two things: offer to help, ask for help, as well as as well as join the groups.
I love that. No, definitely. And I'm big on practical steps. You definitely laid it out there. What would you say are some common misconceptions about women as entrepreneurs, women navigating business? Some of them you've kind of dispelled by talking about how you've experienced so much mentorship throughout your career. But are there any other misconceptions that you'd like to overturn today?
Yeah. So I think it was like during the pandemic, there was a marketing campaign about becoming an entrepreneur. It was on all the podcasts that now you need to like leave your 9 to 5. If you have a 9 to 5, then you're losing in life. It's like, leave it, so then you can be your own boss. You don't have to answer to anybody. You can do whatever you want. And no,
Doesn't work that way.
It does not work that way.
Nope.
Instead, you now have about 50 bosses, because now
Exactly.
you've got loads of different clients depending on what you do. And you need to like answer to certain people, you need to do certain things, and having the expertise to do XYZ, it might be really hard to kind of learn that lesson. So I think for me, it felt like baptism of fire, because in my head, I thought, oh yeah, I can do it, because this person came on a podcast and they said that they just made it work. They just needed perseverance and do XYZ. Yeah. But actually, you need a lot more. So within that, learn from other people and women that have, especially women, because they probably are going through, like, let's say I wanted to start a family now, then I'll look to someone who has ran a business, at the same stage, maybe similar industry, and then started a family, and then find out about the challenges that they may have had doing that, and then you can learn from them. Because it's definitely not easy, but sometimes you can't anticipate the challenges that you're going to come up against unless if you learn from other people that have already done it.
No, I love that. Definitely. So many misconceptions. That's definitely one that a lot of people fall for. Yeah. I would also say a misconception, at least for me, is feeling like you don't have to go it alone. That there's no... You don't get a badge for doing it yourself and grind it. If there are people that can help you, help. That's something I had to learn. Delegation. I was like, what's that? What's that? This year I found out. Delegation. We're friends right now.
You're only one person.
Only one person. Otherwise, you're just putting on and taking off hats.
Yeah.
And then in the process, your weave gets messed up. It's not a good one.
And then
so
also
actually,
now that now that you're like, okay, you're delegating and then follow through. So all those kind of managerial skills that you would have had in the workplace, hopefully, then do that. Because I think for me, I feel so much gratitude when someone's just like, can I help you with this? But then if they're doing it wrong, I'm like, oh no, how do I tell them that? And then I'm always like, just as you said, I'm like, okay, I'll just do it myself, because you know what, I don't want to do a back and forth. I'm just so grateful that they wanted to help, but actually you're allowed to say, that's not how I want it to be done. Could you change that, please?
Absolutely. You're allowed to, it's your baby, it's your vision. I think when people have that understanding, you realize, wow, okay, yes, you need to operate in a way that advances the business, but a way that stays true to yourself. And that's what's so beautiful about what you've created. You're not just talking about it, but just at the very core of Roots to Fruits, Empower, you're staying true to what made you start in the beginning. You're paying it forward, and that's something it's very important to me. Paying it forward. So whether it's conversations like this, or when you mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, I did help. I didn't even think of it, because it was just you needed help. I didn't even think of it. So absolutely being the person you wish you had when you joined.
Yes.
That's something that I'm big on.
Yes.
So at this point, would you say there's been any situations where you feel sisterhood hasn't come as naturally to you, in which case you had to challenge a few feelings that you may have been experiencing?
Very, very good question. And I would say yes, especially when I felt like I'm offering something, and then you have a conversation with someone and they said that, oh yeah, and this is what I could do for you, and then you follow up on maybe they have a network of people, like they're really good at just kind of getting people together, and then I have the service, and then we've discussed it, and then it's like, okay, you bring the service, I'll bring the people, let's make it a partnership. And then it's like, now let's do that, because I don't like just talking for the sake of talking. Honestly, if we're going to talk about it, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it well. But then it's like, felt like that was just a conversation. That was for the sake of saying, I'll help you with this, or let's do this. And then when it came to actually doing it, no follow through. And unfortunately, because that was a woman, then it makes me feel like, hold on, where's the sisterhood there? They could have said, actually, I know I said this before, but it's actually not aligning with now our strategy or our goals, or where things are taking, or it's just not the right time, whatever it is. But it just felt really off. So I have had times throughout from the start, but that's the most recent time where it felt like, oh, hold on, I thought we were doing this whole, like, we're women in this together, we're helping each other, but then no follow through.
Yeah. And how did you overcome those emotions of disappointment, or not allowing yourself to stay in a state of feeling jaded moving forward?
Do not take it personally.
There you go.
Everyone is going through whatever they're going through, and that's their journey.
I love that. Do not take it personally. Keywords today: relationships, accountability, being active, not taking it personally. Most definitely. I'm definitely.
And networking.
And networking. Big on networking, for sure. Now, I have a thing I do at the end of every episode. So I ask the guest to leave a question for the guest of the next episode. So your question is from Monica Ishak, who I had on my last episode. Brilliant lawyer, owner of her own law firm in Florida, West Palm Beach. And her question was, do you feel like you have broken a glass ceiling in your industry, and why?
Such a great question. And the first instinct was no. And it's because I still feel like I'm not where I want to be. Like, I don't feel like as you said, a really ambitious person. In whatever field I'm in, I envision big things, and I don't feel like I'm there yet. So it doesn't feel like I've broken those barriers yet for other people to be able to enter. So that's my first instinct. But then the feedback that I get from people of what we're doing, whether they attended a workshop, whether it was a one-to-one session, and then I get a text message like 3 months later, someone saying that, oh my God, you literally changed the my life. Like, we've managed to do this as a family, or I take control of XYZ, and that was from this and that, or someone just watched a YouTube video, and like, because we've got podcasts from Roots to Fruits, and then they're like, oh, I learned this from watching and it has changed this in me. So then it might not be, because when I hear glass ceiling, I then picture a system or a wider thing, a big goal or a big barrier. And I don't feel like I've shifted a big barrier, but within the individuals that we have supported, thousands of people now in the 5 years, we've had enough feedback to say that their lives have been changed or impacted in a positive way, letting me know that we're doing something positive at an individual level.
Absolutely. And it's like interest. You more than anyone know about interest. You know, it compounds. It compounds. So if you've helped thousands of people, those thousands of people, if they all interact with one person, you know what I mean? And then they interact. So it definitely compounds over time. As women, I think we're particularly hard on ourselves, but just hearing our journey and thousands of people in 5 years, you have made an impact. That's undeniable. You know, so give yourself the flowers, darling. Give yourself a pat on the back, or 2 or 5 for each year. I don't know, however much you want to do. Now, do you have a question for our next guest?
Ooh, very, very good question. I will say, my question is, when you are maybe 80 years old and you're looking back on your life, what would you have liked to have done for your sisters, in line with the sisterhood conversation?
Ooh, okay, we're getting existential. I like it. I like that. Oh, okay, you've got me thinking. Maybe I'll answer this question.
Yes, please.
Oh yeah, okay. What do I? I want to be able to say that I made authentic relationships, and more importantly, created a space for others to show up unapologetically as themselves, knowing that they have the ability to excel and achieve in any area of their lives, regardless of their beginnings. And more importantly, know that their journey and the experiences they have can and should be harnessed for the betterment of other people, as opposed to the individual. That's something that I would want to say at 80. Yeah.
And you've already started to do it. So
You know, Arlyne, you've been absolutely amazing. I've enjoyed our conversation so much. Thank you. Thank you for everyone joining us today. And yeah, until next time, my darling.
Thank you for having me. That is all for us today, guys. Join us next week for some more seeds to sow. And please remember to support us by following and leave a rating on our show on whichever platform you're listening to us from. To those watching on YouTube, please leave a like and a subscribe to our channel. All of your support goes a long way. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, keep shining.